Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Karla Joy Treadway, the Sovereign CEO. She's a podcaster, marketing consultant, and she helps in particular women, but really everyone become more free, make money online, all that good stuff that we love to learn more about. So we welcome Karla to the podcast.
Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you are Canadian.
I am. Help us.
And I'm sure that ties a lot into the story of about how you kind of went off on your own. You know, what's funny is there's another guy that kind of goes by the Sovereign CEO. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Caleb Jones. And he's been around kind of in my circle of basically getting multiple passports and internationalizing around the world and getting foreign bank accounts and offshore and all this type of stuff. So there's another guy. And so I was just Googling Sovereign CEO, and then you came up and I was like, oh, okay, she's doing her thing, doing well. From Canada too. I'm also from Canada. And I was like, all right, let's see what Karla's all about. We love having women on the podcast, entrepreneurs, people making money online, and we can learn something from everyone, right?
Amazing. Yeah. And just to clarify, I work with men, women, anyone that is hardworking, freedom-minded. It's funny. I was looking at my analytics the other day, just on Instagram, like who is really soaking up this content. And there are a ton of American men in particular that are like, yes, friend, love what you're doing.
And we'll link it in the description, but you have 42K on Instagram.
Yeah, that's been really fun considering I lost every single follower I had back in 2021. And you know, it's silly. It's just Instagram numbers, right? But when you're a serious business owner and you're really working like consistently at like that's a lot. You know, I had worked for years and years to get to like that 5,000 number, and they completely disappeared in 2021. I think I had like 900 people left when I started talking about inflammatory things like personal rights and freedoms.
Because you were locked in your house.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can tell that story if you'd like.
Please.
So I've been a serial entrepreneur for 12 plus years. I've always lived a really free life. My husband used to ski professionally. So that had us moving every 6 months for about 18 years. We'd go back and forth between this lake community in Ontario and Whistler, BC. We pulled our kids out of school and lived in Nicaragua. So I'm not new to being uprooted and having a free life. And when our kids got older, we decided to park it in one place. And the business that I set up was a yoga and fitness studio. I ran my coaching business out of there. And I ran it really well for about 8 years. It was it was probably the biggest studio in this community. We had a huge brand. I was teaching on stages all across North America. I was running $50,000 yoga teacher trainings. I was running programs for First Nation communities and youth. Really felt like I had found my thing. Making money, had a good business, helping out the community, was about to franchise when the pandemic hit. And I was forced to close my doors on and off for about 18 months. And in Ontario, we were just relentless with them. And, you know, my lease was up at the end of that time period. And it was just a no-brainer for me to walk away. You know, I thought having my own business was my ticket to freedom. And I was shocked how vulnerable I actually was in that business model. It didn't take 18 months to drain my bank account. It took like 2 months. You know, we still had to pay all our bills. CERB did absolutely nothing. Right? Like, and CERB, if you made
I haven't
any
heard about
money at
CERB in a
all.
while. It's funny. For the audience who might not be Canadian, what's CERB?
So they closed everybody's businesses and they said, well, we'll give you $2,000 a month, but only if you're making no money. So if you were
Hmm.
making any money at all, like basically over, I think it was $700, then you didn't qualify for CERB. So that's not doing anything. That's not paying your rent. That's not paying your employees. That's not paying your mortgage, your groceries, nothing. But a ton of people took it and just stopped working. It was
Hmm.
wild.
Hmm. And what was the sort of the sorry, I kind of side railed you there, and then what was kind of the epiphany or next step?
So I shut everything down and I became a squawk box on the internet. I shut everything down. And for a solid year, I just volunteered for different freedom organizations. I worked with the documentary team that went out to Ottawa during the convoy. I helped different
Mm,
underground pharmaceutical organizations that were getting people early treatment for COVID. I worked for different political organizations. And that's when the Sovereign CEO podcast was birthed. I just felt like it was really important to tell people what was going on and the truth because media was lying to us. And I did that for a solid year, really until the end of the convoy. And the day that I watched peaceful protesters get beaten by the police was the day that I said, oh, like this is happening. I don't need to be in the resistance of this happening. It's time to be more solutions oriented. Not that I'm not in the fight now and doing those things now, but I was like, we got to do something different.
mhm,
So rebuilt my business online, teach other people how to do what I did, shift to the online space, grow a profitable business. I noticed that everyone understood that. Like everyone knew that if you had more money, if your business couldn't close, you would have more power, right? So everyone kind of got that. But there were so many good people that didn't know how to do that. They didn't know how to make a brand, how to do marketing, how to build an online product. So I created a membership to help people do that. I work with
mhm,
individuals one to one. There was also a whole lot of people doing what I did, sacrificing their income to be a voice for change. And they might have lots of followers, but they didn't know how to monetize that or make money off of that. So I
mhm.
started working with individuals one to one who wanted to continue doing this work, but also needed to keep the lights on in their
Right.
house. And it's been a really fun process. Every time someone smacks a rule down on me to be able to say, you don't have power over me. Like they tried to close my business. I closed it myself. I wasn't allowed on a plane. My husband bought a plane and got his pilot's license. We
Huh.
weren't allowed to travel. We made a bar at our house and got like a hot tub. Just like every little dig, I was like, we're getting ahead of this. You can't tell us what to do. And we're going to continue to live free. You can't stop this. So we actually ended up also moving to our island property where our cabin was. And we hunt, we fish, we plow our own roads. We have massive gardens. Basically, any kind of meat that we eat here in our house, we've hunted or fished for ourselves.
Wow.
So just taking further and further steps towards sovereignty every single day.
Mhm,
And I'll leave you with this too. The one thing that I've realized during this process, while I do feel powerful in everything that we've done, I also acknowledge that like sovereignty isn't a place that you arrive at. I don't think any of us have a crystal ball.
mhm,
And I believe, like, I don't think there's one solution that's perfect for everyone. I think money is a really practical one that we can all take advantage of.
mhm.
But you can lose your property. You can move to another country and have things happen there. So I think what's really important for people to understand is we have to have the courage to be adaptable and just keep our eyes open to all the different solutions that are possible because this world is crazy right now. And yeah, we just don't know. So I love that you're offering your audience the solution of leaving Canada and set up. I have a completely different strategy of staying here, but
Mhm,
taking your power back. But yeah,
mhm.
I'm rambling here a little bit, but
No, no,
there's
no,
lots
it's good.
to take.
I'm glad you kind of made the differentiation between maybe your approach and my approach. I think I still maintain ties to Canada. I was actually back for Christmas, but I think internationalizing is important too, so that you're not beholden to any one jurisdiction that we all kind of learned uh, in
Yeah,
in, uh, in the past couple of years, right?
100%.
But my philosophy isn't like, escape or run away from your problems, but more
Mm.
just internationalize, have multiple passports, so that any one government doesn't have full control over you.
100%. My friend Zuby lives in Dubai, and he gets to
Zuby,
keep
shout out
a
Zuby. He
hundred.
follows me on Twitter.
He's awesome, rad human being. But yeah, he moved there because he gets to keep 100% of his income. Imagine that.
Have you ever met him?
Yep. Yep. I've met him. We were at the We Unify event in Victoria, BC. So I've spent quite a bit of time with Zuby. He's been on the podcast too.
Oh,
Good
okay.
human.
Good stuff. And this is out there, so hopefully it's not a secret. But so you're in Kenora, Ontario.
Yeah. I feel like it's the safest place in the world. Like no one really knows
Probably pretty
about it.
safe.
It's pretty safe. It's like it's super redneck. Like so I'm on an island right now, not a tropical island, an ice island. Like you can't
Hmm.
get to my house. You can't dox me. You can't find me. Um, yeah, it feels like a really good place to be. Just rural Canada right now.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltza, author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income by implementing his paycheck multiplication layering method. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond $20K a month. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, if you're interested in unleashing your earning potential and doubling your income, then click the link in the description and book a call with Rolf right now. And we're recording this in early February. It must be absolutely freezing.
Oh yeah. And you know what? I've actually learned like I actually love it. In the summer it's gorgeous here. It's hot, it's beautiful. We're driving a boat everywhere. And being living in the West Coast for so long, I thought I would really hate being in this cold place without the mountains.
Mm.
But there's just something so peaceful. Every morning I take my dogs out and we just walk the ice road for like an hour with these like cotton candy skies. There's no one around me. It is cold, but I don't know. Like a lot of people, after the last 4 years, I've turned into quite a hermit. So I just love that. Like I'm I'm in this like ice castle in the woods. Nobody's around. I can separate myself from all the craziness. And
Yeah.
town's not far. Town for us is like 15 minutes away. I can go be with the people if I need, but I don't have to.
So what's an ice road? Is that like literally like on the frozen lake or?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So there's like a 6-lane luxury highway here in the wintertime that will take you all the way into Minnesota if you wanted to. So the entire lake freezes over. And in the summer, we're like driving our trucks. We have a
On the
plane with
lake?
right on the lake. Yep.
Highway on the lake.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
See, this is
It's
almost like
wild.
I'm like more urban, so this is like a different Canada. Like I play hockey, all that stuff, but
Yeah.
this is I'm not as used to. So just for people who don't have like a map pulled up like I do, so Kenora, Ontario, is basically like almost at the border of Manitoba. This is very northern, I guess northwestern Ontario, kind of where Manitoba hits Ontario, hits Minnesota, right?
Yeah, it's more Manitoba than it is Ontario. We're technically Ontario, but this is a wild stat, like how big the province of Ontario is. because we used to drive back and forth between here and Whistler, right? So it's the
Hmm.
same distance from Kenora to Toronto, which is still in Ontario, as it is from Kenora to Whistler.
To it. I've done it once. I did it once. I did it once. I drove from Toronto to BC one time. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's insane. It's a huge
I had to
province.
stay the night in Thunder Bay and then keep going the next day.
Okay.
Okay, random question.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a place called Royal Lake of the Woods Yacht Club?
Yep. I sure
Have you,
have. Yeah.
have
That's
you ever
like
been
a
there?
5-minute boat ride from me.
That's cool. Shit, I shouldn't even say this. I'm part of a yacht club, and we have a reciprocal agreement with the Lake of the Woods Yacht Club. So I have a random star on my phone of this place. I've never been there, but they'll let me in if I turn up.
It's actually really funny. We do spend some time there. It's a pretty reasonable yacht club to be a part of. I can't remember what their yearly fees are, but because it's a royal yacht club,
Uh
that
huh.
means your membership there gives you access to these yacht clubs like all over the world, like where people are
Hmm.
paying like $100,000 for memberships.
Yeah.
You get a part of that just by being here, which is like a couple $1,000s. It's wild.
This is a really good life hack, by the way, guys. I didn't know we were going there on the podcast, but I'll give you guys a really good life hack, which is basically what Karla is saying is that um, country clubs and yacht clubs, they have these things called reciprocal agreements, where if you're a member of one club, you can actually visit dozens or 100 plus other clubs around the world. So maybe the Royal Lake of the Woods Yacht Club has an agreement with some a bunch of yacht clubs in British Columbia and a bunch of yacht clubs in Nova Scotia and Ontario and in the U.S. Maybe some down in Florida or L.A. or Europe, things like that. And what's cool is you could basically join the cheapest one
Yep.
and then you get access to all of them. So,
Yeah.
joining the Palm Beach Yacht Club would be like 100K plus, like you mentioned, or you could join the Royal Lake of the Woods Yacht Club, but then you get access to, say, the Palm Beach Yacht Club for a fraction of the price.
Or Monaco or like
Monaco.
like wild ones.
Yeah, so there's a hack for you. Good way, and I think it ties into being sovereign, right? Because you're
Mhm.
sort of building this network of like places that you can go. And I use these reciprocal agreements a lot as a digital nomad and expat
Mhm.
myself, because now I have a place I can hang out at in all these different cities around the world. And
Yeah.
I'll open my laptop. It'll basically be like a co-working space for the day. Order some coffee, order a beer, whatever, and it's like practically cheaper than a co-working space.
Yeah, and what you're highlighting too, people that are taking their online businesses really seriously, we work in the online space, but it's really important to put yourself in the right networks and the right places and collaborate with the right people. Like a huge reason why my podcast, my brand, my business has grown is because I collaborate. I'm not just working by myself on the island. I'm putting myself in the right circles. I'm
Mm.
in person at various events across the country. I'm collaborating with high achieving individuals, speakers, change makers. That's important. Even if you are a digital nomad, you want to be in the right circles, and you might still be connecting online, like via the podcast. But that's something that a lot of people are scared to do, which I've never been scared to do. Like day one, when I opened the podcast, I think I reached out to some people that had already been on trigonometry. I'm like, who are the best guests? I'm going to go straight there and just build from there.
Hmm. Do you have some strategies for doing that, for building your network and sort of the online plus offline?
Yeah, I do for sure. So the first thing is the power of personal branding. So while it hurt me in the beginning to use my voice and to talk about the things that I valued and the things that were important to me, like there was this shedding period, that like continuing to make courageous content and talk about not just my work but what I'm all about, that's a huge reason why my brand itself has continued to grow. If you're just talking about your work, you're going to look like a million other people. And even corporations now understand the power of personal branding. So you'll see a lot of corporations trying to take on like human like characteristics in their marketing plan. It's essential. We got to be brave and talk about like a few key things that we're really all about and be okay with the fact that some people will fall away. So we want to differentiate ourselves. We want to stand out. The second thing that I would focus on is the product. There are so many people trying to make this a thing, trying to grow their online business, and they're doing too many things. And the
Mm,
best advice that I've ever had is if you're making like under 10K months, you should only have one product and you should
mm,
make that product so incredible. Learn how to market it masterfully because that's a challenge in and of itself. And one thing that you don't hear a lot of coaches talking about is you should make a product that gets people results. A lot of people
mm,
don't care about that. They care about marketing and getting people in there. But look, like results, of course, are client dependent. Some people work harder, some people take it seriously. But what if, as entrepreneurs, we took what we did so seriously that we made something that we could actually guarantee results in, or at least dabble with that idea? So I love to tell clients, imagine someone paid you $50,000 for this thing. If someone just
mhm.
gave you 50 grand and you had that kind of pressure on yourself, what would you do to make this thing incredible? And the last thing is content. Content is king. Content is the only form of marketing now that counts. People aren't going to print, they're not going to radio. Content is everything. So I teach people different content frameworks so that they get noticed, which also focuses on pivotal content. You know, like your podcast is pivotal content. It's longer form. It's not just that 60-second clip, that quote tile, that meme. I love memes, but where can you really showcase your talent and fine tune your craft, whether that's a Substack article, a podcast, a YouTube
Mhm.
video, so that people can actually see that you know what you're talking about.
Okay, let's stick with this because I know a lot of people that are just struggling with what to do, or they're having trouble deciding, like choosing something because there's so much out
Mm.
there, like career paths, um, and they're just having trouble deciding, like or choosing, and they're kind of in this state of, well, they're just like not doing anything, and I tell people, I said, just choose something. It doesn't even matter what
Yeah.
you do. You just got to choose something, but they're still stuck. Do you see this a lot?
Oh, 100%. So the first thing, like it's so easy to look around at what everybody else is doing and say, like, I can do that. I think first it's important to check in with your unique skills, passions, desires, interests, story, experience. Like you can gain experience, you can commit to learning something, but
Hmm.
start with what you like, what you're good at, what you're skilled at, because you're going to have to spend an obscene amount of time doing this thing. So make sure you like it and that you're good at it. The second thing that we want to look at is the market. You might like it, you might be good at it, but maybe it's not time for that, right? So we teach a lot of market research inside of the academy. You want to get your pulse on what's going on out there. So you want to do some research, you want to test ideas. Sometimes we like the idea, but it's just fallen flat. Or sometimes we're rolling with a product and then accidentally something else starts taking off. Like we want to follow that as entrepreneurs. We want to be adaptable.
Hmm.
But I see a lot of people just absolutely agonizing over this decision, less so not knowing what to take action on. Usually the problem is they're taking action on too many things. You know, they're like, I'm going to be a Pilates teacher and I like essential oils and I want to get my real estate license and the truth is anything you pick, if you go all in on, you can make it successful. We can grow you an online Pilates community if you go all in and we can make that wildly successful. You can take your essential oil network marketing thing and make that a six-figure business. But you have to go all in. And I think there's a lot of bad advice, or I don't want to say bad, it's just not how I operate. An emphasis on feelings, um, and manifestation and these things. And it's not that those things don't exist or they're not important, but people are waiting for like the sky to open up and this perfect answer land in their lap. It's not coming. So if you like a bunch of different things and you're having trouble choosing, you've done your market research and you're still stuck, you just got to choose. You just got to choose and commit to doing that thing. Your perfect answer isn't going to land in your lap.
Okay. And then how do you validate if there's money in the niche?
So there's lots of different ways to do market research. You can go online and look at different forums. You can look at your competitors and see what they're doing. And I say that with like a little bit of a caveat because you never really know exactly how much money someone is making. I love doing interviews. I love testing ideas. So like a simple way to test an idea is like putting out a tweet, right? And kind of seeing what lands, like what takes off, what doesn't take off. You can you can talk about it in your content for a period of time and see if there's like lots of interest in it. You can do a beta launch. So I'm doing a beta launch for a program right now. And I just talk about things really honestly and frankly. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. I think it's a good idea. Here's the roadmap and the process. If you're interested in this, let me know. And know if you're going to be a part of the beta, you're going to be offering me market research. So you're going to get a reduced price on this thing, but you're going to be giving me feedback and help me co-create this thing as we go along. The market's always changing. Nothing is stagnant. And what a lot of entrepreneurs are feeling in 2025 is they thought like there's a lot of successful people that were like, I got it. I got my thing. I got my offer. It's going well. And then all of a sudden, boom, it doesn't work anymore. So that's just the reality of entrepreneurship. Things might change and shift. So you want to evaluate things every quarter, every year, see if they're actually working. You might need to pivot. And, I just did a podcast on this yesterday. In Canada, we're looking at tariffs, and our economy was already in trouble before this. It's really important to look to the future, to be proactive in your business because there's always opportunity. It doesn't matter if we're going through a world war, the Great Depression, there's always a problem or a desire to be met. You might need to solve different problems. Let me give you an example. Like when people hear that, they think, oh, great, well, I need a farm or a pharmacy, or I have to sell oil and gas, like these practical things. When you look back at like the Great Depression, yeah, the grocery store and the pharmacy, like they continue to do well. But do you know who also blew up during that time period? Chanel lipstick, because women couldn't afford like nice furniture and fancy clothes. So it was like this small luxury to make them feel beautiful. Monopoly, the board game, took off because people were at home and they were looking for cheaper things to do as a family. Media, the movies, those took off. So we have emotional needs and practical needs. So regardless of what's happening out there are, again, problems to be solved and desires to be met.
Yeah. I feel like in Canada, just the job market is so bad that there's almost no choice but to do entrepreneurship. It's like you either work for the government or you do entrepreneurship. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys.
Yeah, and it's wild how many people just have government jobs now, right? The government is just growing bigger and bigger every day. I was joking with my kid the other day when I asked her what she wanted to do, and she's like, I'm just going to live in a van and sell feet pics and just travel around. And I looked her in the face and I was like, in Canada, you're going to need to be a doctor and sell feet pics if you want to have a house one day. So let's just get that right. Like, you're going to have like a good job and these side things is the reality that we're in right now.
And so, what are you telling your kids? Are you saying that you need a profession? Are you saying you need a real skill set, a real traditional profession, and then maybe do entrepreneurship on the side? Or are you saying, go all in on your passion from the beginning?
It depends on what they want to choose. So I personally don't have a lot of faith in the education system. I think when our kids were at home with us for 2 years and I really got to see like what they were learning, we're so behind. And our kids will never recover from those 2 years. Like, they'll never recover. And the more I've looked into the education system, the more disappointed I am. They're lowering standards. They're not learning traditional academics. There's more of a focus on social emotional learning. And a lot of our university institutions are just as bad. They have kids pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into gender studies degrees or just things that aren't practically going to make you money. So it depends. If my kids say they want to be a doctor or an engineer, I'm like, okay, great. If you're passionate about that, go to university for that. So I've told them, you either need to be like incredibly studious and you need to pick one of these high paying careers in university and you do really well in school and you get exceptional grades, or you become an entrepreneur and you're the hardest working person in the room. So you're either going to have to be the most intelligent and most educated or the hardest working person in the room. Like, I'm worried for them, to be honest, and we try and drill a lot of our work ethic into our kids. I don't want to scare them about their future, but they need to know like what it's actually like here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's expensive to live.
very, very. I mean, the average cost of a home in Canada is $700,000 right now. So you have nurses and school teachers that they're not going to be able to get into a house. And those are good jobs. They went to university for them. That dream is out of reach for most people now.
And even if you have like a fully paid off house, I mean, property taxes are like damn near 20K a year. Maybe it's a little bit less up there, but
Yeah,
like in the home maintenance, it's like you still need to make six figures just to pay the expenses of a paid off home, right? Like the water heater and the roof and this and that.
that's right. And we're taxed and taxed and taxed.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, our dollar is devaluing. The new taxes are making everything else more expensive. So your gas, your food,
Yeah.
heating. So that dream of just having like a nice car and a house is just getting further and further out of reach for most people.
So I imagine you don't have like municipal gas. Like, what do you do to heat your house up there?
We have two wood furnaces that are blaring 24/7. I think like 30% of my day is probably spent on wood, but we also have gas heating here. We have great big propane tanks that
Uh
we
huh.
get filled intermittently.
And
Yeah,
do
we're
they
not
get
off
brought
grid by
on a
any
little
means.
boat or something, or how does the propane get to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we ever get them filled in the wintertime. In the summertime, though, we have a barge that will come out here and fill our
Barge.
tanks. Yeah,
Okay, and then the barge
yeah.
comes before the ice freezes, and then you just make sure you have enough propane for the winter.
Yep, yep, exactly. Yeah, we're
Wow.
by no means like off the grid. We have hydro here, we have power. So there's actually submerged cables underneath the lake that brings power
Oh.
to the different islands.
Mm.
We used to live in a 600 square foot home that's next door. We rent it out now. If we were to be off grid, we'd have to go and move back into that tiny home, and we could do like we could be cutting holes in the ice and getting water and having solar powers and solar panels and just running the fire. But I would only do that if I have to.
Right. It's nice to have a little bit of infrastructure because yeah, you're pretty
Yeah.
close to like the whatever Trans Canada Highway, whatever they call it.
Yeah, we got a hot tub, we got internet. We're not roughing it here, but I do like knowing if we had to. That is an
Mhm.
option for us. That is here as well, but I'd rather some cushier living right now.
Okay. I think you're living a lot of people's dream, right? A lot of Canadians' dream, like live on a like private island, make money online,
Yeah.
hunting, relatively self-sustainable. I think that's a lot of Canadians' dream.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels good like every step that you take towards that. Again, like we're connected to the system. I pay
Hmm.
taxes, we have power. But every step that you take definitely makes you feel more powerful. I guess the only thing that we're really not doing is homeschooling. Um, I would do that if my kids weren't at the ages that they're at. I've offered it to them. Like, and whenever they complain about school, I tell them like, quit. Don't complain because I'm all for you guys quitting. But they're in high school. They have
You
friends.
got
They're
four?
almost done. I have two.
Okay.
But they're yeah, they're in high school. They want to be there. They want to be social, but I'm not against that idea, pulling them out and getting them actual education.
So there's one thing I want to know. So okay, so in the summer you take the boat, in the winter it's the ice road. What about in the shoulder seasons when the ice isn't thick enough? Like how do you get physically on and off the island in the shoulder
Oh
seasons?
my god, you have to watch my stories in spring and fall. It is terrifying. So it's normal to me now. I grew up in the city until I married Dan, so this was terrifying for me in the beginning too. But I got these wild bush kids now that are snowmobiling themselves to school and boating themselves in the summer. In the in between, um, because we're on an island, this one side of the island stays frozen longer, and the other side of the island stays open because there's lots of current. So that's open
Uh-huh.
all year long. But it's like minus 20, minus 30 here. So it's not water that we're on in the wintertime. When things are freezing, we just start downsizing vehicles at first when the ice starts breaking up. So we'll go from the truck. Okay, it's not okay to drive the truck anymore. Okay, just the car. Okay, it's not okay for the car. Now we'll do the side by side. Now we'll do the snowmobile. I will literally be driving a strip of ice in the spring where you can see open water on either side about 50 feet away. And I'm still driving it until that's not okay. Usually in the spring, we deal with it. And once we're not able to drive, we will quad across the island where we leave a little tin boat. We'll boat across that open water to mainland and then drive our kids around. In the fall, because it's nastier weather, we usually move to town for about a month. This year we went to Thailand
Mm,
for a month, or we'll go to Mexico
mm,
for a month. It's hard to time it because sometimes you do that and then nothing happened with the ice. So yeah, usually fall we avoid it altogether. But yeah, if you watch my stories, they're crazy. In the fall, I'm like the only one driving a boat, and it's snowing. My boat ropes are frozen. And in the spring, we are driving the boat in the snow, or we're using our boats to break through like channels in the ice to get to our house.
hmm.
And I pretend to be like a basic lady sometimes. Like I'll be doing that, drinking my Starbucks that I got in town, pretending to be a normal lady, knowing full well that this is not a normal life that we're
You're going to
living at
war.
all.
Like that sounds pretty dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, we test it. It does sound pretty loose. We test it. We'll put like a chainsaw through the ice to check the depth of the ice.
Hmm.
But I did marry someone pretty insane a long time ago.
So how does this? And I actually just wanted to double click on that. So going from the mountains to the a flat place for a skier.
Hmm.
How I guess he's changed his whole vibe. Where did he switch
Yeah.
to curling and hockey, or how? Because that's a pretty big change.
So my husband's name is Dan Treadway. He grew up here, and he loves Lake of the Woods. He loves the bush. He loves hunting probably more than anything. So when he became a professional skier and sledder, what he would do was he ran a construction company here in the summertime, and then he would just do his photo and film stuff in the wintertime. And then he would move back and forth, essentially keeping both of those careers going. And he did that for over 25 years. You know, he skied for Monster and like some huge companies,
Mm.
but it's dangerous, super dangerous what he was doing. It wasn't ski racing or instructing. It was like jumping off of cliffs and
Freestyle.
mountaintops and yeah, all freestyle stuff, sleds, helicopters, and we've lost a lot of friends, unfortunately, in that
Really?
realm, like too many to count. And
Wow.
you know, he's an awesome dad. And when we had kids, that changed everything. It just wasn't as fun to do those
Makes sense.
things. And there was one really good friend of ours in particular who also had kids. He had lots of conversations with Dan about wanting to quit, but how do you do that when it's your bread and butter for your family? And he ended up passing away. And then Dan's younger brother passed away doing the same thing, doing big mountain skiing. And I think that really just sealed the deal for him. You know, there's no judgment. There's lots of guys that continue to do it, but Dan always said there's not a single day in the mountains that's worth a lifetime with my kids. So
Mm.
we packed up, we moved back to Kenora where he ran his construction company full time. And he has no regrets. Like, just switch that part of his
Yeah.
brain off, close that chapter. He's happy as a clam here, bought himself a plane. So he gets to still do dangerous and sketchy things like he likes, but he does it in Ontario.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm glad he did it. I had a hard time with that transition because Whistler's just so fun. You know, to go
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
a wild, crazy party ski town to a nice small Canadian town. It felt boring at first. I'll be honest, it felt boring. Um, but I find a lot of excitement now in the work that I do, the events that I run. I've really come to love it here. And I don't know, maybe some of that comes with age too. I really do love it here, but it feels like a real place. It feels like real living, where
Mm.
Whistler feels a little bit like La La Land, like a fake
Sure.
reality. It's lots of fun, but I know we're living simply here, but we have good jobs, a good family, good marriage. You know, we want for nothing here. And because we live here, and, you know, it's probably four times as expensive to live in Whistler as it is here, because we've done that. You know, he's going to be retired in a couple years. We just did a month in Thailand. We vacation wherever we want, whenever. So that's another way to look at freedom, right? We can go out west whenever
Hmm.
we want to travel because our money just goes further here. For now,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with the tariffs, but for now, everything is good.
Do you drive to the US to get gas and stuff like that?
No, 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 everything's just here.
Okay.
And, you know, we burn a lot in gas because we have a construction company, like multiple boats, airplane, trucks. That's probably our biggest expenditure is gas.
Okay. Tell me about the events that you run.
So I haven't been running events, but I've been speaking at various events.
Mm.
So I've spoken at different freedom events, some crypto events, some sovereignty events, the We Unify event. I'm actually speaking at some Christian business conferences this spring and October. Yeah, that's been a really nice side effect of doing the work that I do. People hear my message and they hear about the work that I'm doing. So they invite me to come speak to their people, and it's always fun gathering in person.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. I've had one or two professional speakers on the podcast, and it's one of those things where once you start doing a couple speaking gigs, you get like it's like a snowball effect, and you start getting more offers. Was that kind of your experience?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's still not something I'm fully comfortable in. I feel like I get like those Ron Burgundy hands. You're like, what do I do with my hands? I'm sure other people can't notice that, but I always get nervous going up on stage depending on the event. But yeah, it really pushes you. Um, I've been on lots of panels. Panels are great if you can get yourself into that situation the first time, because if you're on a panel, you're just it's like podcasting, right? You get to chat back and forth. But when it's
Yeah, yeah.
just you trying to
Uh-huh.
nail a perfect speech and remember, that's a problem for me, trying to remember what you're going to say. Whew, that's like a whole other level of pressure. But
Yeah.
I think it's good to put pressure on ourselves, whether it's the content you make or inviting like a guest that you feel like is out of reach. I think that's what really allows us to grow.
What advice would you have for someone that's maybe they kind of got the business going, they got some Instagram followers and the blog and all that stuff, and they want to crack into the speaking circuit? How does one do that?
Um, I just say reach out. You know, a lot of people see the collaborations that I've made. There's been a couple that have landed in my lap, but the majority has been me just putting myself in the right circles and offering my services, saying like, "Oh, I see what you're doing on this podcast here. Here's what I can contribute and I think your audience would like it. Oh, I see this event coming up. I'd love to speak on this topic or this topic." My advice would be, whether you're trying to get on someone's podcast or you want to be a part of an event, you need to know that event and that speaker and that podcast really well. The
Mhm.
amount of like invites we get in the hello at box for my business, where people are just talking about themselves, or they'll like offer someone and they'll ask me like, tell me about your show and how does this guest fit? I'm like, you tell me. You tell me. So if you want to be on someone's podcast, if you want to speak at their event, you should know them inside and out. You should definitely have listened to some of their podcasts, because you want to then tailor your message to fit the event.
Mhm.
But yeah, don't just be brave. Put yourself out there, and it'll come back to you.
Cool. Just a couple more minutes here as we get to wrapping up. I was curious where the communities that you're a part of, where do they live? Because I think it's a bit different for me. Like in Latin America, a lot of stuff happens on WhatsApp. We also have Telegram groups, and we do a lot with Telegram now as well. I don't really use Discord much. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's like websites with forums, but like whatever. In your experience, or for what you do, where are these communities living? Like, where are people connecting? Where are people talking?
I'm on Instagram a ton, but then when people are actually working with me, we use Circle. Circle's
Mm.
similar to school. I
Sure.
love it. I'm a very ADHD entrepreneur, and I love just how circles arranged. It's just really easy to see the different spaces. It's not overwhelming. It's not messy. And there are community chats in there. We have online courses in there. We have meetups. And then we do like weekly live calls on Zoom where people can get together face to face.
Mhm.
So yeah, I find like just chats can be really overwhelming sometimes, and a
Yeah.
lot of people can like just pull away. So the more you can simplify like your space and ease of use, the better when trying to run a community.
Okay, cool. And so if people want to work with you, they'll sign up for a circle.
Yeah, it depends on what they want to do. I have lots of free resources for people just getting started, like the podcast, the YouTube channel. We're opening up a free space within Circle here soon that will have some courses. You'll be able to chat with me. Then we have the Sovereign CEO Academy, which is like foundational branding, marketing education. I coach in there live every single week. Then we have a next tier for people that are kind of already established businesses. They're trying to get to the next level, or people hire me one to one. So creators, coaches, speakers, authors, if they're just trying to get their brand out there, they're trying to fine tune their product. I do work with a smaller group of individuals one to one.
What do you think is harder, helping people go from sort of 0 to 1, or helping people with existing businesses scale?
0 to 1 is the hardest because so many people like the idea of entrepreneurship. Very few have the discipline and the drive to actually do what it takes. So, yeah, when I'm working with like B2B clients, people that are already established, like in the mastermind, um, it's so much easier. You know, they already kind of got the ground floor. We're just looking at like refining their messaging, their product. We're making a better plan, and they already are doing the work. But I have a soft spot for people just getting started. So I spend a lot of time in the free containers and the lower price containers because I really truly just think this is something that everybody should have. You know, the ability
Mhm.
to know how to make money. So I try and be real and honest with it. You know, there's a lot of coaches saying like manifest money and call it in. I'm way more boring with my marketing. I'm like, this is hard work. You got to show up consistently. You got to focus. I'm way less sexy with my marketing, but it's what we actually need to do to generate
Right.
money. You know, there's a lot of people with businesses, but they're not making money. You know, that's a hobby. So my goal
Mhm.
is to help people generate revenue, and to be honest, it's not right for everyone. It's not right for most people. And I'll say this, you don't have to have your own thing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Network marketing or affiliate marketing is a really good model for some people. They can tap into a pre existing business model,
Mhm.
or maybe you work for an entrepreneur. There's a lot of people joining
Right.
teams of influencers and media personnel. If you have a skill and you can help that person, you know, you're still working as a contractor, but you don't have to invent the thing. You can just support another entrepreneur as they continue to grow. That option's always available too.
Love it. Well, we're running short on time. So, Karla, thank you so much for being here and sharing a little bit of your story and your wisdom as well. Why don't you tell people where they can find you, share a final message with the audience, all that good stuff?
For sure. Thanks so much for having me. Probably the easiest place is just Instagram at Karla Joy Treadway. I'm Karla with a K. From there, you can find all of the free communities, YouTube channel. Yeah, just Karla Joy Treadway across platforms.
Cool. And there'll be a link in the description as well to the Instagram, so you guys can find it there as well. And there's also a link for our Telegram group, because I know we talked about communities a lot in this episode. My Latin Life, we have free Telegram groups for all the digital nomad stuff in Latin America. Highly recommend you guys join that as well. And for the audience, wherever you're listening to this, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, X, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We put out 2 episodes a week. with amazing guests like Karla, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.